Need to come up with a name for these.
One moment. Don't start.
We could just be like, he could be walking on and be like, oh, nice
Yeah.
to you to join.
Right. Yeah, we can.
We good? We're live? Okay, we're going to give everybody just a few seconds to hop on. We are very, very excited. We have a very special guest, as you can see. Yeah, we're going to get started in just a second. So how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing great?
Can't complain.
Good.
Now
Good.
that you are not freezing anymore.
I know. Texas went from -7 to 70 in 3 days. That's crazy. crazy. While everybody is joining on, just really fast, is it okay if I call you Dr. V?
That's fine. Yes.
Okay.
That's what everybody calls me. So.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up your last name. How do you say your last name though?
Vasada.
Vasada. Did I say that?
Vasada.
Okay, awesome. So we like to call him Dr. V. Dr. V is a special guest. Obviously, you guys know Dr. Bharat Sangani. We have been on here. We had a ton of questions sent in over the last couple of weeks, and we are super excited to answer those. And then Dr. V is going to just give us some insight. So Dr. V, can you give just a small, short commercial about yourself and what your specialty is?
I'm a psychiatrist, I guess. I've been talking to people for the last 41 years and trying to understand how they think and how I think sometimes in the process, and help people achieve their best. I do often treat people actually that are depressed or have substance abuse issues or have other mood problems. And often we'll work with families, adolescents. So I have a pretty broad background in terms of what I've done. The most interesting part was I was also a corporate medical director of a company that provided various psychiatric services. So that's how I became more interested on the business side of things. My job was sometimes simply to tell them not to do something that they wanted to do because it wouldn't be good for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now, even today, I'm practicing full time. It's been very busy because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, my work involves anywhere from adolescents to 80-year-olds.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that too. And before I ask one of the questions and actually take your turn, Doc, how are you feeling? How's the mentorship program going?
Oh, it's really going well. In fact, we had to kind of slow down a little bit. And again, request to everybody who have applied and who are wanting to apply. This is a new program. Nobody has ever done it the way we're doing it. The concept is different. The implementation is different. So please bear with us. We need your help to perfect the program. But we have come a long way since it was launched. We have a few admissions in our program, and we are kind of bifurcating them for the true mentorship program or an advisory program who really don't need that extensive mentorship program, or then first need to get the basic things required, which doesn't require that much attention, to go into advisory program, and then someday, if there is a need be, then they get into the mentorship program.
Yeah, and one of the questions is about the advisory program, so we'll get to touch on that. Dr. V, how did you and Doc meet?
Well, we met through all people, our common friend who also is my accountant. And he always would talk about Doc and how organized he was and how successful he was and how we did things differently in life. So I always wanted to meet this man. And then he moves to Dallas, and next thing you know, we become friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long have y'all known each other?
14 years. Maybe.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we are going to hop in and start asking some questions. Are y'all okay with that?
Yes.
Are y'all prepared?
As much as we
Depends on the question.
Okay, to touch on, you brought up COVID. So one of the questions that was sent in that I think is a really interesting question. This came from Kajwana. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm so sorry, but from Mumbai, India. Is that how you say it? She asked, or maybe she, asked, what changes have you noticed with relationships during the pandemic? And so many people have broken up during this time. What caused that, do you think?
Well, I think certainly the daily life changed. And just to give some idea of what that is, in my own case, I started working from home the day the COVID hit, pretty much, and have worked from home since then and still do, which means my relationship with my wife totally changed. I was eating whatever she fed me twice a day, sometimes 4 times a day. We spent a lot of time together. Sometimes it wasn't the best thing to do. And she totally lost her freedom because at least I had my patients that I could talk to. She had her few friends, and that's about it. So I think the biggest problem was the isolation. I would say two I's. The isolation is one, and the second is the intensity of relationship changed. Because when two people are in the room together, they're either going to have a really good time or they're going to tear each other's hair out. And so all the relationships were tested. And in rare cases, I've seen it actually where people became more close. So I was just talking to a friend. Dallas had a big storm recently, if people know that, how bad it was here. There was no electricity for a few days. And this couple just sat there and they played card games for 2 days with no light. And they're, my age group, so they're not young people. But it brought, I was talking to the husband, he said it brought us very close, more close than we were before. So that intensity has created problems too, because if there are minor cracks in the relationship, which every relationship does, sometimes they become bigger. But I can think of a few other couples where they really kind of made up and things went really well. But the person who asked the question is right. A lot of people have broken up because that intensity has really damaged a lot of relationships. So isolation, intensity, and the sudden changes is the other thing. Is now your income goes down, or you get too busy, or your income goes up. If you're a musician in India, for example, your life totally changed. You had to suddenly overnight learn how to use Zoom to do programs, and you didn't get paid for doing any of them. You just wanted to be in the limelight still. And I have some musician family friends. They're all back working now, but it's been difficult. And IT people, they were working 6 hours, 8 hours a day. Now they're working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. Same thing with lawyers. And then there are other people who are completely unemployed and can't do anything.
So how do you think you take steps into recovering? So let's say you have lost your job. This is a part where the wisdom program would definitely come in. Also the wealth, but let's say you've lost your job, you've gone through a breakup, there's just been a lot of stress and turmoil. What are some steps that are recommended to just start getting back on track?
I think focusing on one simple thing, and we don't do that enough, and that is the gratitude for what we have. And believe me, I say that a lot of people have lost a lot. But government can't take your house away because, or the banks can't right now because it's hard to do foreclosures. If you're renting, they can't kick you out. Money is a problem, but gratitude is very important. So making a list of things that did go right all your life.
That's good.
Second is, had you prepared for the rainy day, you'd be in a slightly better shape. Third, fight the isolation. Jobs are still there, and they're hard to get in some field versus others. But once you isolate because of this pandemic, and this has been one of the problems, is the authorities that did create these new rules, especially in Europe, and here too, didn't count the impact of what happens to, for example, a child who doesn't go to school anymore. What happens to their socialization?
Right.
That's just one example. But if you have lost your job, I think it's really important to reach out and be in communication with people as much as possible. It's also important to take care of yourself. So after gratitude comes some mindfulness and taking care of yourself, meaning exercise, working out, having a routine, even if you have quote unquote nothing to do, goes a long way. Having a good routine of sleep, because a lot of times what happens to young people if they lose their job is they'll get video games. Next thing they're up till 4 in the morning.
Right.
Next day, who wants to get up and work out? It's too cold, or
Yeah.
too hot, or whatever. But that rigid routine would be very helpful. And you hear that from the prisoners of war, the ones who survived, many of them. The reason they did was they had a very strict schedule, even though they had nothing to do.
Right.
Their free time they managed in a very structured way. So providing good structure to yourself is important. Relying on the family and working on the family relationships will be a good time to get some counseling because everybody's working on Zoom.
Right.
So you can pretty much see a counselor anywhere you want.
Yeah. And the second step.
So just to add to that, I mean, he addressed very fundamental issues that caused the first answer to the first question, and we just to address it, and he gave a very good guideline. From the monetary perspective, one thing is very, very important is if the income goes down, how do you cope with it?
Right.
And the way to do that is you need to start creating a budget. And in budget, you need to divide two categories. One is a fixed absolute expenses, and second is the discretionary expenses. The fixed absolute expenses are defined as if you didn't use that area and didn't pay that money, you will be on the line for bankruptcy. And anything else is discretionary. So getting a Starbucks coffee suddenly becomes discretionary, but getting a glass of water, because if you don't drink, you will die, it's certainly another way to say going towards bankruptcy. So once you define those two things, then only stick on this side of the budget. And I'm telling you, that's the best way to deal with it. A lot of times, I'm very surprised, and I'm sure people come to you too. People come to me and they have never thought of it that they can do without it.
Right.
It's okay not to have luxury for a while. It's okay not to have big hotel visits or buy Louis Vuitton bags or whatever for a while. It's okay to live without it, because if you are surviving, if you survive through this and you get your job back, you can go back to your normal lifestyle. So it's very important.
And most people who have financial problems never budget, and that's part of their behavior problem. So if you ever look at your credit card bill and see what's on auto pay, you have Netflix, you have your internet, you have your Hulu, you have your, nothing against Netflix and Hulu, but you have like 20 different things that are taking out $300 a month from your account.
Right.
And you don't even think about it. And we did a little experiment when I was in first year of my work at medical school. Just wasn't enough money. So me and my wife, we sit down and we decided, let's look at what's going on. We wrote down every single penny we spent at the end of the month. It was all handwritten and all paid in cash and some credit cards. But we decided to go cash for a month. And it was eye-opening to see where we were spending our money. Since then, we haven't had a money argument.
Right. And I think something that we talk about at our office all the time, and we give each other a hard time, is our office used DoorDash nonstop. And that's the company that delivers food to us. And so one time we all sat down and we added up everything we had spent in DoorDash in a couple of weeks, and we were floored how much money we went through. And so now we're all helping each other hold accountable, where it's like, you're not ordering anything this week.
Well, I got a good news for you. You can sign up on DoorDash for $10 and you won't get any delivery fees.
Really?
So yeah, check that out.
Program.
This is not a paid ad, DoorDash, but hey, there you go. There you go.
Of course, I don't own any stocks in DoorDash.
Yeah. So Dr. V mentioned, being prepared during times to make sure that your wealth is in a good spot, to where if things do happen, you are fully prepared for those things. And Doc, your wealth program walks through people and helps create the budget, looks at everything from the outside, and helps make sure that they're set up. What are other things that in the wealth program that people can be prepared to just experience in the wealth program?
So as we have talked about it before, the definition of wealth is very important. We have kind of tweaked the definition a little bit to fit our program. We define wealth as determining the way to live within the means you have, and then work on expanding the means. So it's a very complex definition, and we try to simplify it. Most people, just like Dr. V was saying that spend a lot more money than they make because they never have budget. So first and the foremost thing we require in our wealth program is that learn to live within the boundaries, within the means you have. Now, we don't want people to not be ambitious. So then the next step is how to expand those means.
Right.
And that's what we try to implement in the wealth program.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that a lot of questions that come through the wealth program is how do I create a budget? Where do I start? And it's those type of questions that you think are so simple, but it's really a struggle for people. And I think for the health and wealth part, a lot of these things we just assume people know. And so the part of the wealth program is we go through, and when you sign up for the program, we go through and we ask you a ton of questions, and they're pre-qualifying questions. So it helps us fit the best program for you. So with the health program, and that question actually came from Kevin in LA. So if you're watching it or come back to watch it, if you actually go to the website and look up that specific course, everything that Doc has just said right now, it's all outlined for you and very easily read. So, and if you have any more questions, just reach out to us, fill out the contact form, and we'll make sure that we get your question answered. Okay, really fast. Let's Doc one more time for you. So what can I expect from the advisory program? Can you explain this a little more in detail? And this is from Matthew in Dallas.
Sure. And I kind of touched it when we first started talking this morning. There are certain situations that does not require an intense assignment of our mentorship program. There are certain instances where somebody is not ready for mentorship program. So in either cases, there may be a way we can help the individual. So that's what caused us to create the advisory program. So we shift those individuals to the advisory program, and it's a simple program where you have access to me on an email format for 1 year, and I will just guide you, advise you with whatever little I know. Again, guys, I've never told anybody that there is a genius inside me. What I have told people is that I am probably the best utilizer of common sense and discipline. And just having somebody like me on top of you, constantly watching and pushing and making you accountable is 90% the win. Everybody, what I'm able to teach and suggest is everybody knows that. There's nothing special in what I do in my life every morning, but by God's grace, just by doing the work that I'm supposed to do, and then do it with street awareness. And that's what my background from India comes in play. We all have the same data. It's how we interpret the data and implement is where my value would be.
Right. And another way of thinking about the advisory program, it's a stepping stone that prepares you for the mentorship program. So the mentorship program, there are several different types of this mentorship program. It is completely designed individually based off of your needs, your wants, your desires. So not one single person will have the same mentorship program. So the advisory part is if you're not ready for that mentorship program yet, the advisory part is for us to bring you in, for Doc to just see where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish. And then it allows you to prepare for the mentorship program, and you're getting that one-on-one interaction with Doc. So think of it as a stepping stone as well. Okay, I have a question from Brandon and Austin. I'm going to start with you, Dr. V. Is that okay? So this is a little longer one, but it says, people have always been embarrassed to say that they go to therapy, but it seems like there more be a shift in people being more confident in public about their mental health problems. Do you ever think it will be normal for people to see a therapist, or will that always be a minority?
I think it will always be a minority, at least for the foreseeable future. But what I have seen is people getting less prejudiced about it, and also doing more work with self-help, self-awareness. And now with the internet, the game has really changed, where it is a lot easier for people to access information that they could utilize. You know, the funny thing about that is my worst nightmare is not somebody not going to therapist, but going to a bad one.
Right.
And that's sometimes very
Yeah.
frightening. Somebody just sits there and doesn't do anything. So if you go for any type of therapy, I would expect you to go in with some goals, and you're not seeing some changes, then I think you got to revisit that issue. And a wise friend of mine told me one time, and I didn't believe him when he said this. He said, everything that happens in the first 7 days of the relationship keeps getting repeated for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And I said, how is that possible? But it's quite true, is we keep making the same mistakes. So if you go to a therapist, go with a list of things that you need to change about yourself. If you go there just to talk about how the world is treating you, then you may not get as much out of it, although that may be a problem, how the world treats you.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And if it doesn't, obviously you guys can send in anything and we will reach out and we will get those answers. Doc, really fast. Kevin in LA wants to know, can I take the health and wealth program but not the wisdom?
Sure, there are different modules. So just pick the module that you think you're interested in, and we'll just concentrate all the energy in that module.
Yeah, so on the website, I was about to call you Dr. Bharat Sangani again. Now I'm having two doctors here. But on the website, bharatsangani.com, you will have a button at the top that says course. When you click on those courses, you will see every course that is made available. You can take each module at a 90-day course, or you can take the full 12-month program. Also, the advisory program is now available for everybody. So if you have any questions, make sure you go through all the FAQs and then send us a contact form and we'll answer one of those for you as well. Okay, here's a great question for you both, and you guys can take turns answering it. Actually, really fast, Kyle from California, who just sent in something, he said, how do I sign up for the program? That's exactly the same thing. So go to the website, click courses, pick the course that is something that you're wanting to take. Go ahead and press apply, and it's very simple steps from there. And then, okay, this is from Ree in Mayhem, Texas. It says, does exercising help control mental illness just by itself, or do you have to do other things?
Excellent question.
Oh, you took it.
Great question. First of all, define mental illness, right? Exercise. I used to, when I was 30 years old, I used to tell everybody, I hate exercise, and I'll give up 5 years of my life, but please don't ever ask me to exercise. I was the worst at any kind of physical education program in my school. If there was actually a test, I would have failed it. That's how bad I was. But one day I surprised myself. We were playing a game and I did exceptionally well. And so that created kind of doubts about my physical abilities. Well, fast forward, I got into aerobic exercise when Jane Fonda's tape is where I started.
Oh, wow,
right?
Jane Fonda.
So we had the tape, and then we got somebody to help us, and so on and so forth. And it took me 9 months for the first time I felt that endorphin rush. And it's a lie that it happened in 6 weeks. I want to shoot that guy, whoever said it happens in 6 weeks, because it did. To answer your question,
He does not mean
there have actually been studies, I don't mean it, but there have been studies that have shown, in fact, the study was done here at Cooper Cooper Aerobic Institute with Dr. Trivedi, that showed that 3 times a week, if you exercise 20 minutes where you cannot talk while you're exercising, and I hate nothing more than the person next to me that's on the treadmill and keeps talking on the phone. So it should be hard enough to where you're incapable of talking while you're exercising. 3 times a week works as well as an antidepressant for some depressed people.
Wow.
And I tell you today, the biggest problem that we have with my patients who are struggling is insomnia. And the biggest reason is their activity levels gone down. So exercise, I think, is, if you really are going to get well, don't expect to get well without changing your habits in terms of what you eat and what you burn. It's that simple. And Doc is a big advocate of exercise, so he can answer this better than I can.
No, you covered it very well. exercises should be a very important part of your existence, and it will do various things. Normally, you hate to go to exercise. Most of us do. There are some just love it, but including, like he said, I just dread it to go to exercise. But what I have made sure all my life is that the first thing in the morning, everything that I don't like to do, I just get it done.
Yeah.
And then that way, all day I don't have to celebrate on it and worry about it and say, oh, I still got to do it. But we can spend a whole session about exercise. But for today's discussion, exercise is a must. And then we can elaborate some other time how to do it and what to do.
Yeah, something else too. I think you just need to come mentor our whole team. Can you just come mentor? We should do that one time, like have a mentor session. But our whole team, we've been talking about, because our work has just been really busy, and when we get off work, we don't want to exercise anymore. And it's like we have to start doing these things, like you're saying, in the morning, so we can knock those things out and then get to enjoy the evening after a really long day. And so we're really we're thinking about doing a fitness challenge at our job. So maybe you can come train us.
Great. It'll be my pleasure, and I'll love to do it. And again, my things is, are usually simple, straightforward, and there's no complexity to it. So we'll be love to chat.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Share ideas.
So Lindsay and Taylor, if y'all are watching, hi.
The advice I give my patients is get on. If you have Amazon Prime, get on it. And there's all sorts of videos. I do Zumba, and it's a pretty awful scene when I'm doing Zumba, but it's right there in front of me, and whatever they do, I mirror, and that works very well for me. And at the end of 1 hour, I feel different. And I think people drink too much when they don't exercise in the evening after they get off work. They won't realize, well, this is the best way. Do this first, and then you can have a glass of wine.
Yeah. So we have 2 people that are sending in messages right now online. At Dallas to Singapore, just ask on Instagram, Dr. V, when it is appropriate to medicate and when not to medicate?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that if you look at the diagnostic categories that exist, if somebody fits a particular diagnostic category, say major depression, anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, in those conditions, medication should be considered, but a lot else needs to be considered. I think before you get to the point of medication, and it's not an either or. Counseling is also critical, even if you do use medication, and vice versa. Sometimes medications are needed. What I tell people, and my practice, as much as I do other things, what I'm really known for is my ability to appropriately use medications for patients. So I can say that before you go to that point, you really need a very thorough assessment. Unless it's an emergency situation where a person is acutely suicidal or just non-functional, start with therapy. But I would say biggest indicator for me is this person fully functional. Somebody who can't get out of bed and can't do any of these things that we talked about, chances are they'll need additional help, and that's where meds can be helpful. If there's family history of, say, depression, now you're getting depressed, perhaps medication would be appropriate. In certain conditions like, some of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, medication is critical to treatment. Addiction, medication is not as helpful, but it is helpful in certain situations. So important thing is it's not when to medicate, it's if to medicate. And don't do it without some counseling and therapy at the same time. One of the problems I see all the time is people start medication, they feel better, and they quit therapy. Well, this is the best time to work on this, because now if you're feeling better, you can take on more challenges and work on yourself.
Right. No, that's a good answer. Doc KM from Houston, Texas just asked, they really appreciate you talking about getting up in the morning. This person says, I really hate getting up in the morning. I'm really trying to be disciplined. Do you have any tips on how to wake up early enough to work out in the mornings?
Yeah, you put an alarm that that doesn't stop till you get up. And there are ways. There are different apps and there are different equipments that you put your phone maybe 10 feet away and you have no choice. And you put the music that you hate as an alarm and you have no choice.
That's a good idea.
But to address it.
Look at the first scene in Rocky when he starts training. Have you seen the old movie Rocky?
Mm-hmm.
Rocky 1. I mean, there have been like Rocky 100 right now.
right.
But the very first Rocky where he drinks the 6 eggs raw, and the audience at that time was going, ugh. And then he goes and runs and he's not feeling good, and pretty soon he's really on top of it. And the music kind of starts with
and then that's what the second thing is finding a partner. I think 90% of the problem will get better if you have a motivated partner. And one time you down, that person will drag you in, and when that person is down, you can drag in. So a couple of these senses are, but at the end of the day, I always said that, and that's why this mentorship program is not for masses. We reject almost 90% of people, maybe more than 90% of people who apply for it. This program is not for masses. You need to be internally motivated to succeed. That motivation is the number one factor for being included in the mentorship program. The one person we just accepted in the program, we told him no several times, and he kept sending us more and more answers, and then just not said, please take me, but he actually gave more defined way that I could relate to him and say, okay, this guy is truly motivated to do this. So unless you're motivated to do exercise, no matter who comes and does what, it just doesn't work.
I want to answer that further. There's a book called, I think it's called Art of Impossible. And it starts with small I's and then capital I's. So small successes to start with. So if you're having trouble waking up, well, what did you do the night before or 3 nights before? Did you play video games at 11 o'clock at night? Chances are you will have problems because it works on your brain. Same thing with the computer itself. When did you have a couple of drinks? Because alcohol can affect your morning performance. Some people are wired differently. They're not morning people, but it can be improved. In a more extreme case, you could use a lighting system which wakes you up. You sort of turn, the lights keep coming on in the morning. And I think what Doc said about keeping your phone away, it's a small step. Turn the alarm on and keep the phone, 10 feet away or what have you. But the point is, if you take those small steps, it'll lead to bigger things. And in this program, what Doc's looking for is people who are either, successful entrepreneurs are people that are either running away from something or running towards something. And so he's looking for people who are running, who are at least ready to run. And I think this morning question is great, but it can be changed. I did it myself. I used to be not a morning person, and then the time came in my life, I just woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I still had an alarm clock at 5:30. I'd be up if I want to.
Right.
I don't have to anymore, so I don't, but I could.
Yeah. So we are almost out of time, but just really quick, Doc, can you tell people I know we have it on our website and we've been really talking about it and we've got videos. We have a lot of new viewers today in this last couple of weeks. Some people haven't seen it, but where did the mentorship come from? Tell a little bit about your heart behind it and then how Dr. V will assist in this program with you and partner up.
That's a good question to sum this session up. And again, a huge thank you to Dr. V. He has been, from day one of this concept that we've been developing, he has been my mentor and then giving me thoughts and ideas to improve this program. And he's the one who is really helping us to shape the wisdom part, the thought that I had that the surrender is the strongest weapon ever invented. If implemented properly, he's taking it to the next level and converting into a workbook fashion, self-help fashion, some kind of program that will be helpful to people who want to to start with the program. As far as what mentorship programs originated from is, as most of you may or may not know, that I came to this country with basically $10.45. And by God's grace and a lot of help from people from this country and everywhere, we have now have a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that I'm fortunate to chair and run with. But during this process, I also had a large health practice as being a cardiologist, came up to 70,000 patients in one practice. And we were in the 99th percentile in the country for the healthcare that we provided for that size of group. And then while I was doing all these things, and again, a lot of credit goes to the people around me than me, but somehow we figured out how to maintain the relationship with the people who are important to me, who can permanently make me unhappy. So when you put all these three things together, I believe that I have, for one reason or the other, been sitting on the pinnacle of it. Not necessarily it's all me, but I'm here. So then I said, if I am here and I'm not that smart, how did all these things happen? So then I dissected the facts. And I said, it's very simple to do it. Then people started coming to me. Then I said, again, I always think in terms of scaling. I don't think small. And that's Oprah Winfrey taught me that always think big, whether you can get there or not. So now we are saying, how can we scale it? And that's my contribution to the humankind. So when whatever time I am on the earth, I think I would fulfill my duties to the Almighty by bringing people the values that make me happy. If they can just follow the simple rules, I guarantee you'll be happy too.
Right. And what an incredible time to do this. So this program is in a pilot phase right now. This program is being built as it is going. It has all the structure set, everything is ready to go. And what we're looking for right now are people who are qualified for the program, but who are ready to get this going. So right now, there is a charge of the application fee, and that is it. If you are qualified for this program and chosen to participate in the program, you will have a one-off conversation with Doc, and you will be able to plan out your entire program and be a part of this pilot phase. So it's just such an incredible experience right now. And if you're looking for a new journey and a life change and you're serious about it, then check out all the social media panels. We have Instagram, Facebook, we have it all. Go watch the videos, look at all of the live Q&As, continuously just engulf yourself in everything that Doc is saying, and then apply for it. If you're not qualified for the mentorship program, there is a program that Doc will help you with. And then if you have any questions, continue. Doc, we did have somebody ask, and I don't want to ignore because she was last minute, but her name is Melissa, and she's in Georgia. She said, do you still practice cardiology?
Yes, I still practice cardiology. I practice 1 day a week in Mississippi. That's where my original practice was, and I just started practicing a few hours a week in Dallas too.
Awesome. Well, we had more questions that we didn't get to ask, but we will answer those questions for you. I will get those answers from Doc and Dr. B, and we will email you guys. Thank you so much for sending in all of your information. Thank you for putting in your questions. I hope we answered the ones that we could. And then we are really excited to continuously do that. We have another live Q&A coming up, and possibly another special guest. So keep on the lookout. Make sure you're following all social media. And thank you both. Thank you, Dr. B, for spending time.
It's a pleasure.
And Doc, it's always a pleasure. You know that already. It's always a pleasure to have you answer our questions. If y'all don't have anything else, we'll tell everybody bye.
Okay,
bye. Let's go and eat now because the food has been ordered, and then we'll all exercise.
Yeah, that's okay. Bye, everybody.